Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. You know, Bill, we are on the threshold of the second impeachment trial in the Senate of former President Donald Trump. And there's some very interesting things happening regarding truth and use of language. You know, you have the impeachment managers in the House who indicted the president. Essentially, they passed the impeachment resolution and sent it over to the Senate, and now the Senate is about to have a trial. So that articles of impeachment is the document that essentially charges the president with a crime. And now we're on the threshold of this trial.
Yeah.
And what's very interesting is just the day before we're recording this, the president's defense submitted a 78-page trial brief to the Senate, which lays out their argument for why the president is not guilty. And it's very interesting what this brief lays out, and I think it speaks to interesting use of language, and I think we can have a great discussion about that today. And I'll just set up that it's interesting that what the president's lawyers are arguing is that he did not incite the insurrection. He was speaking freely, and, you know, based on his First Amendment rights, he could say whatever he wanted there, and that his words did not motivate the people to attack the Capitol. And that he was well within his right to speak as he did. He blames, and then what's interesting is he throws the protesters, or the people that stormed the Capitol, under the bus in this document, saying that that the attack on the Capitol should not be blamed on Trump inciting violence over time, but rather on a small group of criminals. So
this one's tough, because this one's really tough because it's about leadership. It's really about leadership, and do we make leaders responsible? Tom, this is really a hard thing, because basically they're appealing, and the way truth is getting purchased and truth is getting hijacked here is that when we frame something in a common way that's familiar to people who want to believe, then they believe it. So this is the bad apples, one bad apple, few bad apples defense. Oh, on Wall Street, there's a few bad apples. You know, in business, there's in, you know, whatever company, there's a few bad apples. This is the act of a few bad apples. And it wasn't my leadership. It was the few bad apples. Well, it's not really fully the truth. There is some people that are more inspired to hurt and climb and damage the White House and enter the halls as if they are going to hurt somebody. Now, if there was one Republican that decided to come out and say, you guys go home now, that Republican would be the leader. So if Ted Cruz came out and faced that crowd of insurgents and said, listen, all you things, you all turn around, and he would be the next presidential candidate. He would be. You people turn around and walk out. Like Moses, he would be parting the Red Sea. It would be that moment that Ted Cruz could never get on a national debate stage. But he's not parting the sea that way. He's parting the sea by going, those Democrats over there are not doing things fairly because I'm watching my numbers over here, and this is the best way to go. But meanwhile, if he's showing that kind of leadership and they listened to him and he chased them out, but he didn't have the skill, courage, or ability to face a crowd that way because he doesn't know how to language or communicate in a straightforward message of leadership. That's a JFK moment. That's a, the Harry Truman moment. Going, the buck stops here. I'm chasing these people out on my own. All you people, quiet. You turn around, walk in the other direction. But he doesn't have enough confidence that he can master angry people. He doesn't. So it's very, very unsettling and very disheartening, but that's the way it's kind of showing up.
Well, and the interesting thing is, with this legal defense of the president, it's really interesting. He's saying, no, I didn't inspire those people to storm the Capitol. They're just criminals on their own, and they decided to do it. They misunderstood me, whatever. It would have been very different if the president gave a speech in Washington and then a group of people decided to go and storm the Capitol in Albany, New York, and, to try to make a statement protest,
in
stop.
Michigan.
Michigan, right. At the Michigan State House, remember Gretchen Whitmer, there was these groups that plotted to kidnap her. Yeah, if they had stormed some other place. But this happened in Washington immediately after a Trump speech. And so what's really ironic about this defense is he's trying to say, or his lawyers are trying to say, that his words did not inspire or should not have inspired these people, which says he's not a good leader. He doesn't know how to rally a crowd and motivate them to take action. So your defense is kind of like, yeah, I'm, the former president was not a good leader. Or and he would argue the opposite, I'm sure. If anybody asked President Trump, he would say, oh, yeah, I'm the best leader ever. I'm the best leader this country's ever had.
And I think that's really important to get back to what leadership looks like. I mean, whether it's Ted Cruz being a leadership, but it's also messaging. What does a leader do? They inspire, they engage, they create advocacy, they support identity, they create loyalty, they rally people for a common cause. Those are all really good things, except when they're motivated out of guilt, blame, and shame. When they're motivated out of those three narratives, what winds up happening is those are guilt, blame, and shame are the three-card Monte of the human psyche. Guilt, blame, shame. Guilt, blame, shame. Guilt, blame, shame. Think about how many messages that have ran through your head that you feel either guilty about, blame about, shame about. Shame, guilt, blame, shame, guilt, blame. I mean, it's annoying. See, did you watch what your mind just did? Because you and I have been through many and have talked about many conflicts over the years. And there's even one that you're even currently experiencing. And those three things will lock your brain up. They will keep you from clearing your brain. Shall I do it this way? No, I might run into guilt. I might run into blame. I might run into shame. It's like, and that's what, regrettably, where the the experience is of the Trump messaging and the Trump followers mindset is they need somebody to blame, Democrats. They need somebody to be guilt the few bad apples, and they need to cover the shame of what the leadership messaging has done, because those people were inspired, they were engaged, they were advocates, they were loyal, and they had a common cause that was under one simple, not true message: stop the steal. That's enough to motivate. Can you feel your body, even if you believe the sentence, stop the steal? If you believe that, wouldn't you be there with them?
Yeah, I can imagine that inspiring, if you really believed it, that there was fraud, sure, that would inspire people to take action. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Bill, does this show us that leadership is a very powerful force that can be used with integrity for something good, or it can be used for something very bad? And I mean, it's really a weapon of sorts. I mean, either to achieve something for the common welfare, the common good of the people, or to achieve something for yourself. And I guess it's how leaders either become, can become authoritarians, or they can, become, leaders that are, I don't know what the label is there that would be in opposition to that, but, more, I guess, democratic leaders, not Democratic Party per se, but democratic leaders. The reality is, I mean, this defense by the president's lawyers is a mob boss defense.
Great label. It fits right in there, because the leader only needs to give this much of a message, not enough to be legally accountable unless it's right on point. So the right on point message, the bullet that you can see would need to be literal. That is, no, you can't walk back from, which would sound like, I'm going to follow you down there, and let's break into the White House and sit in the hallway and just disrupt the Senate and Congress and take people out and kill them that don't believe in us. Do you see how that's all spot on? That's all spot on and literal.
Right.
From a language place, it's literal. Okay. So the quote that we build around that is, this is a literal message that then we can say it's literal, and then people did exactly what he said to do. And then he would be, the way they're pitching it is, this would be the literal message. But the thing that he's on the hook with is, I'm going to be there with you.
Well, among other things, I mean, think about, Bill, the literal aspect of the fact that he's there giving a speech down the street from the Capitol building. The people are right there. And he is literally rallying them to walk down the street, go to the Capitol, and like you said, I'll be there with you, which was a lie, but that wasn't the point. The point was to inspire them and rally them to take action that he could not take. But he's right there in Washington. I mean, he's pointed this rally down the street to the Capitol. That's why I was saying it'd be one thing if the president were giving a speech and conceptually rallying people in general to fight for their rights or whatever, and then a group goes to the Michigan State House and does something. He didn't say, go to the Michigan State House and do this. I mean, it's easier for him to, I guess, separate himself from that one, because people taking action at home to the state, he's not even there. But here, I mean, it's direct cause and effect. He pointed the loaded gun of this mob at the Capitol and fired it with what he said.
Yeah, it's almost like it's almost like the, you know, there's the unsettled quality of this is that, what are we fighting for? You know, what are we really protecting here? And are we protecting values, or are we protecting an individual? You know, and the literal speech or metaphorical or hyperbolic, it's the one that they take out, that, you know, that many people don't understand that because it's a $3.25 word, you know, that's like, or hypocritical, you know, people don't know what that word means really. And even though it's used a lot, the unsettling thing is that once a person is engaged, once they have inspiration, once they're being empowered to be an advocate, and it's a part of their identity with their flags, they're going to move right with it. Now, Tom, did you see the cell phone tracking from Trump's rally to the Capitol building? Did you see what this thing?
I did not.
Oh my gosh. So this was the thing that was so unsettling and fascinating, is that they had a heat map. And we can find the heat map somewhere, I'm sure, of the cell phones. Here's the time when Trump is giving his speech. And here's, as soon as he's done and he walks off, the entire group of cell phones are walking. This is so funny. I'm saying it. It's like funny. The entire group of cell phones, after he is done speaking, it moves all the way to the Capitol building. And
Wow.
It was really unsettling, because it really showed the real-time movement of the cell phone, of the tracking of cell phone. Now the person that wants to believe that these people were motivated before Trump talk. They didn't. That was one of that. No. Those people were there already, and they broke into the White House before he gave his speech. That there was a message that went out like that they were breaking in, and that the time wasn't right, because that feeds into the conspiracy mindset of this time stamped and this, which is, it's really a comment on the damage that has been done with trust. See, we have damage for the last 30 years with trusting government and media. We have some trust problems. One person getting covered and one person's mistakes being amplified. And so, because trust is the latest casualty, mostly done through the cell phone and social media. What do you trust? So then, as soon as trust goes under the bus, truth and trust die at the same time. So we've got an emergency situation here regarding language to restore trust. Trust is not restored with facts. I just want to let everybody know that. Can't. You got to restore trust through, and truth, you got to restore trust through engagement and meaningful advocacy towards both the individual good as well as the collective good. And that's the only way it goes. And it'd be nice if our leaders would know that, and they really don't. So
so many of our leaders are actually lawyers that have experience prosecuting things or having trials. And it's interesting because on the one hand, the law is supposed to be, really about right or wrong. And isn't that ironic that, a good lawyer can argue either side of something like that, and
They
tend
can.
to, and
They can. Yeah.
um,
I'm
and
having a
it's
flashback. I'm having a flashback of being in federal court, and one of my clients was struggling and was up with some charges. And a week before, I submitted a document about this big to the judge. I mailed it directly to him.
okay.
Mailed it directly to the federal judge. And when I did that, I'm sitting in the galley, or the where everybody sits, right?
Yeah.
And he said, "Mr. Stierle, are you here in the audience?" I had no idea he was going to call my name. I'm sitting there
Whoa.
going like, there's 200 people in this room, or 150 people in this room. And I go, yes, Your Honor. And I stand up. He goes, "I received your document and I took it into consideration."
Wow.
Now, as a language specialist, that is a feather in my cap. because I must have said something right. I took it. Well, he implied he took it into consideration more than a direct in consideration, because, my guy, entrapment from my viewpoint, unconsciously walking into the bear trap, right?
Right.
I was going like, how did this guy get trapped? Oh, this is how he got trapped. It's like, yikes,
So did I have to ask, did your client end up being convicted anyway?
He got convicted and he got a smaller sentence than what
good.
was the prescribed thing, So, but if I was thinking about that in a moment, if I would have known the judge was going to do that, I would have said the following sentence: "Your Honor, may I approach?"
Ooh.
And I would have got him this much of a sentence, or no sentence, or an alternative sentence. I said, "Your Honor, there's a better way out of this." And I would have came up and made my case. Your
So
Honor,
in
I think
hindsight, that you wish you had done that, huh?
yeah, that's a little disappointment, but I still feel proud that leadership and leadership messaging does not have to get caught in the black and white narrative, which it is currently caught in. Lindsey Graham goes back and forth in his leadership. He leads one way and then he leads another way. He leads another. I'm done with this. I am going this. And people think that message is, oh, now he's had enough. But no, he's going to swing back the other way. And
that's the thing that is so frustrating about a lot of our political leaders. Lindsey Graham's a really good example of, again, with the whole, we're not going to vote on a replacement for Ruth Bader Ginsburg if it comes up in 2020. And then he does it. That should be the easiest thing for his opponent to hammer him on. And if it was argued correctly or presented correctly,
right,
to the people, he just looks like you cannot trust any word that comes out of his mouth. But they didn't do that. And it was a real communication opportunity lost. And
absolutely lost. Yeah, absolutely lost. And it's really, really unsettling because and the thing that's most unsettling about it is that that we do have the tools to inspire people to work towards a collective America that includes the minority America on both sides. The minority America is not a race. It is a list of ideals that are minority ideals. If I'm looking at the movie releases that are coming out, and I am in a small town in America, and I watch the pressure that comes out with the entertainment to push my morals out to the edge, that is too overtly sexual. That is too overtly violent. That is too overtly XYZ. and I'm watching that, and I'm sitting with a conservative value set, I'd be pissed at Hollywood too. I'd be pissed and call them all the things. It makes sense that they are worshiping demons. It makes sense. Meanwhile, they're doing the same thing, that they're just looking for how can I get the most bucks, and how can I create the biggest impact or the biggest buzz by doing something that is out on the edge. So it's really unsettling.
Well, Bill, if the facts don't matter, and as we've often discussed, often they don't matter because they're not going to land. They're not going to be received by the audience, the listener who they're intended to be. You can argue the facts all day long. We talk about this with journalists all the time, and it's like it doesn't have the impact. So if the facts don't matter, when it comes to whether it's the impeachment House managers in the second impeachment trial arguing their case, or it would be maybe a Lindsey Graham opponent trying to really communicate that nothing he says can ever be believed. Does it help sometimes to come up with a label with a lower value word that's not like hypocrisy, that's maybe going over a lot of people's heads? What does that really mean? You hear it so much, it maybe doesn't have as much meaning. But wouldn't it help to sort of give it a label that could stick, that people would understand, to essentially take Trump's gift of marketing and branding and turn it around on him? Or,
Yeah, and it's really unsettling that, but because you're fighting the spaghetti throwers of labels and diagnoses on one side, and they just throw and see which label or diagnosis, and they test it for impact. So it's not like the Cambridge Analytical thing that took place, is that they amplified the messages that got the most clicks. Drain the swamp, lock her up. Those are the ones that got the most clicks, and they just brought that out and did the public broadcasting of it. And they said, hey, you got the marketing numbers. These ones will work the best. And Trump even said it from stage. Yeah, I didn't really like Drain the Swamp at first, and it's like, oh my gosh, all he's doing is testing marketing slogans to see what sticks. And all he's doing is, testing marketing slogans that, that he's looking to stick. So the current slogan, Trump derangement syndrome, is something that we, an identity team, the base, the Republicans that are in that camp said, oh yeah, this is just the Democrats with Trump derangement syndrome. They have a mental disorder. You see, they're buying it because it allows them to maintain the identity and the loyalty that they have for their vote, as well as support all of the other messages that they've received before. Stop the steal, Lion Ted, it's, and it's really, really unsettling. So that label and diagnosis is something that many, many leaders have used. And there's a list of them, of really dark characters, but there's a list of positive characters that have left inspiring message. Winston Churchill, FDR, JFK. They all leave inspiring messages that allow the nation to rally and to do something extraordinary. To, I commit that we're going to go to the moon by the end of the decade. And everybody goes, it's impossible to get there. And all of a sudden they got there 2 years earlier than they thought they would, because they put the right solution to it. They went around the planet and came back.
Well, again, here is the use of leadership and, those tenets that you refer to: inspiration, engagement, advocacy, common cause, to inspire people to achieve greatness, to achieve something for the whole, for the good of the people, the good of the country, or inspiring people to do something morally, ethically, legally questionable to achieve something that's in your best interest.
Right, right. And the messengers, which are the attorneys on both sides of this, the people that are writing this, are not in the awareness that they can shift their language slightly in order to create a greater impact. There's things that I could craft that would protect Trump better, even though I might have the thought that it's indefensible. But there are things that we can say to actually protect him, which is, yeah, he was doing an inspiring speech, and his people were so inspired, and they were so inspired that they took what he said literally instead of taking what he said metaphorically. Now, all of a sudden, you're promoting him as a leader, but you're also putting the blame on the people that took him literally. Because I am the rule of law president, they could have totally spun it in a way that made him look better.
Oh, but they could also then spin his own statements that I'm the law and order president to then convict him for inspiring these people. If you're the law and order president, you know very well what you're inspiring them to do. You may not have loaded
I
the
was
gun.
just inspiring to them. Now I'll hit the counter argument.
Yeah.
I'm just inspiring them to speak up for something that I and they both believe, is that there was voter fraud, and he has never let go of that. He's actually still doing that thing. And you're going like, what? There's now there's the numbers were in early, and the numbers don't. It's like he's going like, I am not looking about how votes are counted. I'm not even looking about how votes are counted. That there's a whole bunch of them in the cities that the counting is done later, and therefore the numbers are going to swing back because of the number of votes in that place, because there's more people there, where the other districts that have a small number of people, they're getting counted first. Look at all the red over all the spaces. The reason why it's red over the space is because there's not that many people there. See, even the human being's proportion is skewed. It skews their truth. Let me say it this, even the proportion. So if I take a city and I draw a circle around it and I make it blue, and then I take the entire countryside and I make that red, the brain cannot tell the difference. It says there's more red, therefore there should be more votes.
Huh.
It can't tell the difference, Tom. It can't tell the difference.
These are not the droids you're looking for, defense.
This is not the droids you're looking for situation. It's like, this is not what you're seeing, because the city, I'm just going to make up some numbers here. The city has 10 million votes in it, or 5 million votes in it. Well, in Los Angeles, that'd be true. A smaller city, 1 million votes in it, whatever the city is. And the surrounding countryside that's all red has 500,000 voters. Of course it's going to be red out there. I'm just like making up some numbers, but the visual is the problem, is that I'm looking at Georgia, and why is it so red? And then there's just these, 5 spots that are blue. And why do those 5 spots that are blue is more than, they had to get rid of the votes, because look at all the red there. It is literally a trick that the brain does on the believer's mindset, and it can be easily purchased or hijacked.
And it's interesting. Similarly, and this is probably a subject for a future episode, but it's also disheartening that it appears that our Senate, that is divided 50-50 for 50 Democrats, 50 Republicans representing various states, that would mean our country is evenly divided in terms of, political identity and interest, and that the country is really divided right down the middle, 50-50. In reality, it's really not, because you've got North Dakota and South Dakota that each have less than 1 million people total in each state, get 4 senators, and then you have New York and California that combined have 70 million voters, and they get 4 states. So our representation is not proportionate to the population, and has gotten many people feel out of whack. And
that's correct.
That's
correct. Very unsettling.
Yeah.
Very unsettling. It's really more of a 60-40. Well, we can look at the numbers. Actually, just look at the votes there, the 8 million.
The popular vote. Yeah. 8 million vote difference.
Popular vote. And the popular vote gives you a better sense of what the proportion of the Senate and stuff would be. But even that's not really fully true, is that, some of the down ballots, had a lot of Republicans win, and no one thought that the number of Republicans were going to win. It's not until there is a issue that motivates the base to come out, or the various different bases to come out. So if you put marijuana laws, on the thing, then all of the folks that, want that thing will come out and vote for it, like happened in Michigan. Or if you put abortion initiatives on the ballot, all the people that are interested in that are going to come out and say, okay, this is our time to vote. We got to get out the vote, because, we got to, but they're trying to, they're just going after the loyalty. They're going after the inspiration and the engagement and the advocacy for a value, and then hoping that trickles to that candidate getting voted for. And that's really basically a part of the thing called the Southern strategy and stuff, is you get people to vote, for their value, and then their candidate that looks the closest to that value will also get the vote. So it's not even the candidate that's actually, I care about him, but I care about this issue, which is a way to, again, not really have a full-throated, vibrant discussion, for the for what they're fighting for and stuff. So,
well, interesting discussion on leadership, Bill, and it'll be interesting to see as this impeachment trial plays out, how much that leadership is really called out, and if
it really is interesting,
if the Senate overall really does uphold the ideal that words matter, right?
That's right. Yeah. So, well, more to come on this, Tom. I think that we can definitely take out a spin and see how the values are voted for, and the loyalties are protected, or and are we going to kind of hold accountable, people accountable to their words.
Okay, Bill, thanks so much.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.